Well, good afternoon, folks. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. We're delighted that you're here for this Founders Day Town Hall. And as I think about that, 61 years ago, 11 boys got in a boat and sailed across the Atlantic to Spain to start SYA, and at least 9,000 other students have followed them in the years. And so we're celebrating that moment of very first adventure of SYA. So we're delighted to be here today. Joining me is also our brand new board chair, and have been a member of the board for 5 years, and that's Taylor Ruggles, class of '85. So about 40 years later, Taylor, you got actually on an airplane and headed over head over to Barcelona.
Seems like
So
yesterday.
delighted that you're here, and Taylor and I are very excited to introduce you to this year's award winners, and we'll do that in just a minute. Just to give you a sense of the flow of today, we have two things. Most of it will be honoring our three wonderful alumni, and I will introduce the awards, and then Taylor will introduce the award winners, and then also have a conversation with them. And then at the end, Taylor and I will give you a quick update on SYA. So again, welcome. Thank you for taking time to be with us. Delighted to be here. So we do each year award three awards. One is an SYA Distinguished Alumni Award, and that's really recognizing alumni who've made a profound impact in their profession or in their communities, and really embody the values of SYA. Second award that winner that you'll hear about is one who's won the Emerging Leader Award, and that was established just a few years ago to recognize younger alumni in their career accomplishments. And the third award is the Stephen M. Foster Exemplary Service Award, and this is actually named in honor of one of those 11 boys who were in the boat, as I say, back in '64. Stephen was in the very first class, and he has been an amazing contributor to SYA in time and service to our wonderful community. And we, in his award, want to honor people who do give back to SYA. So those are the three awards that we give out each year. And Taylor, I'll let you take it from here. So thank you.
Thanks, Tom, and hello, everyone. Again, I'm Taylor Ruggles, Spain '85, chair of the board. It's such a pleasure to be with you today and to recognize some of our illustrious alumni. I have to say there's a lot of interesting discussions we have on the board, but one of the more fun things we get to do is review the nominations for these awards and indeed recognize them. And in that light, I really want to thank my colleague, Darcy McLean, Spain 2001, who heads up the awards committee, as well as the entire awards committee membership, for their work in really just giving us such an amazing, talented group of alumni to recognize. And in that spirit, I also want to encourage everyone online here to consider nominating one of your fellow classmates or an alum who you know well, who is deserving, or parent or volunteer for that matter, for these awards. It's an ongoing, it's an open nomination process. There will be an email that's sent in January, though, as a reminder before we review next year's nominees. So as I introduce our honored guests, we've asked each of them to share their SYA moment. That's a question Tom asks of alumni. And by that, he means the experience, the encounter, the realization during their year abroad that has stayed with them, the moment that shaped who they are and opened their eyes and changed their perspective. For all of us who've attended SYA, I know it's been so impactful, and I love that Tom has asked all of us to try and distill it into a moment that stands out. So I'm looking forward to hearing that, but without further ado, let's meet our award winners. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Menna Demessie, who is the SYA China, 1997 class. She is the recipient of SYA's Distinguished Alumni Award for outstanding contributions to and leadership in her professional endeavors. Through leadership, advocacy, and transformative policy work, Menna reflects the purpose and impact SYA strives to inspire in all alumni. Menna, over to you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. This is a true honor. I hold SYA and my experience in China, and I should say also Vietnam, dear to my heart. And it's never been too far away from me in pretty much any adult experience I've had. It has transformationally shaped my identity. It made me hungry and eager to learn the world that much more. I have so many amazing experiences. And so when we were asked this question, I couldn't narrow it down, but I will say that it is the day-to-day routine, actually, that we had in Beijing. The fact that there were no privileges given to any of us. We had to do everything the same way our host siblings did. In Beijing in 1996, I remember we were throwing around the statistics. There were about 11 million people in Beijing at that time. Now, 30 years later, the population has doubled. But back then, there were 11 million people and 9 million bikes. And the 50 of us were part of the 9 million bikes. You know, we had to use, many of us, to ride to school every day. And I lived in an apartment much smaller than my bedroom and kitchen here in LA combined. And I lived with my host sister and host parents on the 15th floor. And if you weren't back in that building before it got too late, then you had to walk 15 floors all the way up to the top, because we should be, getting to bed early. And I would often wake up every morning and look out the window, and it would be maybe 6:30, 7 a.m. And I see all of these beautiful seniors with black hair doing Tai Chi, and I'm still in bed, as a 17-year-old teenager. Like, I think I should be doing some morning routine before I get to class. But just the day-to-day of spending time with my host sister and the amazing students of SYA that were selected across the country, the opportunity you get to explore the world with like-minded people from diverse backgrounds, it's hard to not connect with them for the rest of your life. And so many of them to this day continue to be my best friends, but all of the memories I had of just riding my bike to school, running to the ping pong tables during break, sitting in these long, sessions of traditional Mandarin language learning was very, and really doing it in the sort of the way that our host siblings did. It exposed us to different pedagogies around the classroom and really disciplined us to be really open-minded with how we learn the world and the people around us. So I'll stop there.
Oh, that's great. Menna, nothing like 15 floors to motivate you to get home on time. Next, I'd like to announce Lara Adekoya as the recipient of the Emerging Leader Award. She's a class of 2010 in France. From inspiration in France's boulangerie to building a thriving community-minded business, Laura's creativity, determination, and generosity exemplify the leadership and impact we seek to inspire in SYA students and alumni. Laura, congratulations. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is a huge honor. I just was so over the moon when I heard note that I had won this award. It means so much to me, especially because SYA had such a profound impact on my life to this day, and I feel so lucky that I have been able to take so many elements and things that I learned as a 15 or 16-year-old in France and not only implement it into my personal and professional life, but share it with customers and strangers every single day. So we were asked, of course, to share an anecdote, kind of going off of what she said. I really think it's just the everyday quotidien, like the little things we did every day. Like, I remember every morning when we were living in France, I would actually walk, of course, to the bus stop and then found myself at République, where I would catch the 8 bus to get to our school. And I would always get a little pain au chocolat in the morning, just a chocolate croissant on my way to school, right? And then I remember after school, I would walk home because, you know, I like to see the sights. And as I was walking home, I would always stop to get a tarte aux framboises or a little pastry or a little eclair. So to me, that was my comfort sweet treat in the morning before I went to school and then on the way back. Until today, this morning, I had a chocolate croissant, you know what I mean? And on my way home, I'm gonna get a sweet treat. So even so many years later, just that comfort and warmth of a sweet treat in the morning, whether it's a croissant or a pastry or a tart, it's such a huge part of my life. I guess it's pretty coincidental, but there is a bakery here in LA called République. So literally the same name. And that's where I go every Monday on my day off by myself to sit, to have a little coffee, to have a pastry, and just to center myself as I prepare for the week. The friendships that I made at SYA, so profound. 2 of the girls that I, you know, did SYA France with from the East Coast are still my best friends till today. And I actually participated in the Historical Memory Conference. So in our year at SYA, a group of us had the opportunity to go to Lyon for this memory conference. We stayed with a host family down there. And there's a gentleman named William that I met in France there who is still my best friend till today. After the program, he actually came to live with my family. No program, right? He just came and lived with my family for 3 months. And his best friends, who are now some of my best friends that are French, are actually in LA today, hanging out with me, visiting me. They were in the bakery with me on Saturday, helping me shuffle trays. And it just goes to show the connections and the friendships from SYA and from that year are present day fulfilling me and giving me so much purpose. So yeah, I'm so grateful for SYA.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura.
Absolutely.
Now I'd like to introduce the Stephen and Foster Exemplary Service Award recipient, Carol Weston, class of France 1974, and parent of Lizzie, class of Spain 2005, and Emmy, class of Spain 2008. Carol's 50 years of unwavering dedication and connection and community embody the spirit and service that defines SYA. She lives, breathes SYA and is a passionate supporter and such a deserving recipient. Carol, congratulations. Over to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And like Lara and Menna, I just love SYA. We all love SYA. It certainly changed my life completely. I was a public school kid. I didn't even know there was such a thing as private schools out there because everybody on my block went to the same school. And somehow I ended up in France in 12th grade 50 years ago. I am a woman of a certain age at this point. So I think my SYA moment would be Christmas. Oh my God, I'm going to get choked up. Christmas 1973. My French parents, Maman and Papa, who are no longer here, my mom and dad from America came there with my brothers. So I had my 2 families. I had my American family and my French family, all in their little living room outside Rennes. And there was just so much love in the room, like my 2 families. And my American family didn't speak French. My dad tried, my brother tried, and my French family didn't speak English, but they really connected and communicated in all the values that SYA holds dear. So when you asked me to think about the moment, that was the moment I thought about. I will say that was 1973. This year, 2025, I was lucky enough to teach writing in Bordeaux. That was awesome. And at the end, all three of my French SYA sisters came and met me in Bordeaux and treated my husband and me to oysters. And I gave them the SYA hat that you guys gave me. But they're still my family. And it's just beautiful. And certainly the American kids who went to France with us, we just had our 50th reunion within this past year. It was last September. Next weekend, a year ago. Not they all, but 33 people came to New York, stayed at Margaret Conklin's Uh, we kicked it off at Margaret Conklin's and then Seth Adenoff's and then my house. We had 3 days of parties, and it's just amazing. These kids, I didn't even know some of them, but now that we've been hanging out for 50 years, I'm closer not just to my best friends from SYA, but to some people that I hadn't had the privilege of knowing back then. So the family and friendship and love in the room, that's my moment. Thank you.
Oh, that's so meaningful, Carol. It certainly brings back memories for me and I'm sure many others on this call of our own experiences. Even though I was in Spain, certainly when my parents visited, I found myself as the interpreter between the non-Spanish speaking American family and the non-English speaking Catalan or Spanish family, and suddenly being in that role of responsibility. Yeah, those ties are for a lifetime, and again, congratulations to you, because I know you're much of that glue that holds your class and brings your class together for those reunions. So again, congratulations to all three of you, three very impressive women and alumna of the program. So pleased to celebrate you. Just like to have a little conversation, maybe ask some questions. And again, anyone online, if they have a question they'd like to submit to the group, please let us know. We have a few minutes for that. But I was wondering, just to tease out, and this is for each of you, just if you could talk a little bit more about how your experience with SYA led you on the life and career path that you subsequently followed.
Sure, I'll kick it off. I happen to be a political scientist by training, but I often say that doesn't define who I am, and I'm very proud to say that, my love affair with Asia and China specifically really came out of my first experience with SYA. Something, in the 90s with this opportunity. I mean, I was taking Spanish classes in high school. Mandarin wasn't even offered. And I remember my dad saying, well, I mean, you don't even speak Chinese, and I said, well, that's why I'm going to go to China so I can learn. But something struck me as a very unique opportunity in my adolescence. And because of that experience, I was eager to go back. So I went again my senior year of college and studied. And then I went on my own to study China's accession to the World Trade Organization in 2002. And then after that, when I found myself working in Congress, really on every policy issue you can think of when it comes to empowering communities across the globe, those early experiences you have with SYA. I mean, I tell all my students before even college, let alone high school, please go learn in another country. Be in a place where you have to adapt. And SYA gives you that opportunity very early. We know all the studies about how important it is to really learn a language fluently, before age 15, or at least during your high school years. But in terms of shaping policy, right, or whatever field you're in, it is so important. I was looking up these statistics. So, SYA started in 1964. Back then, there were about 100 to 300 million passengers flying across the globe. Today, it's about 4.5 billion people. Back then in the 60s, people were getting their news and communication through print media and radio. And now we have 5.6 billion users who get their information on the worldwide internet. And lucky enough, SYA still stands strong in encouraging people to actually show up in their real selves across the globe. It's great. I'm a big fan and advocate of digital technology, but it can never replace the human connection you get at a very early time in your life. And so for me, in my world of policy, when I hear words like diversity and inclusion and cultural value, for me, it warms my heart. I'm not scared of those terms because I know exactly what they mean, and I know how they have shaped my ability to even agree with the people that I disagree with, or at least respectfully understand that their difference or perspective might be because they came from a different place than me, and vice versa, right? And I'd love to say this is part of my DNA because my parents are immigrants from Ethiopia who met through a study abroad program, the American Field Service program, and they spent their senior years of high school in the United States. And so when I told them, hey, I want to go to China, my brother was like, well, if you're going to China, then, he was in 8th grade. He's like, I'm taking a year off my school. I'm going to Ethiopia. And my parents said, go do it. Right. And that's at age, like, that's 15 and 17 years old. Right. And so I think this says a lot about the parents of SYA students, right. And their encouragement to send their kids off at a coming of age time of their life to really immerse themselves in a completely different world. It is so critical. It is so important in the ways we understand each other, make the world a better place. You really have to live that experience. And so SYA provided almost, it's like a living classroom of understanding how the world works and really just appreciating culture. And I feel like I'm better for it. I'm stronger for it. And I really thank SYA for having such an early exposure to that kind of experience so that I can really stand strong with very powerful people who have influence and say, we should do it this way and maybe not this way, right? Because I had experience to know that we are all coming from different places and perspectives across the globe.
And when we were talking before the beginning of this program, I think you said, SYA is needed more than ever. And I couldn't agree more. In today's world, not just the travel, but the relationships, the impact that SYA has on young people to help give them that broader perspective is critical. So no, thank you for sharing that. Laura, how about you?
Sure. So many things I could say truly, especially tying my very Parisian French inspired bakery to everything I learned while I was living in France. I think the one word that kind of is coming to me right now is commitment. And I committed to learning the French language to the best of my abilities when I was in France. Granted, I already spoke before, but obviously the mastery that I gained post-program was unmatched, right? Beyond just mastery of the language, I think I really committed myself to this global perspective, this mindset of diversity, this mindset of inclusion, this mindset of being global and being a global citizen. And I knew whatever it was that I was going to do post SYA, that I was going to keep the French thing going, right? And my friends always, my SYA friends actually always joke around that I honestly in the past, 10, 15 years, any week, 3 days, 7 days, 10 days I get, I'm in France, right? Like maybe I'm a creature of habit, but I'm in France, or a French speaking country at that. Any little weekend I get, even for my business, when I'm like, hey guys, I'm gone for a week, I'm in France. And it's just this commitment I have, an affinity for the language, the people, the culture, the feeling. And even if I'm in France doing the same thing, I'm so happy. I'm so fulfilled. And I think this commitment to SYA and to the language and to a program and a year abroad that gave me so much, I've just found it so important to give that back in all of my professional and personal endeavors. To that point, I have classmates from SYA. We all have classmates that maybe haven't kept up their fluency of the language. I mean, life happens, right? Like we go to other countries, we pick up another language, we just get busy, in another career path and don't have time to, speak French or Chinese or whatever it is on a daily basis. I found no excuse. I speak French every day of my life, and I truly have since I got back from France. I mean, at the time, granted, this was 2010, Rosetta Stone was still very much a thing. I was online on Rosetta Stone, chatting up people from Africa and Morocco and Algeria, whoever I could find who was in that Rosetta Stone chat room. Just because in Seattle, I didn't find many French speakers, but I was like, this isn't going to be an excuse. I mentioned William, my best friend, who was obviously French. He and I would talk almost every day on Skype, on Zoom, whatever it was. And even in my bakery, there are many Spanish speakers in LA, not many French speakers, but they find me and I find them. You know, so many, even tourists come into my bakery and I just hear a little bit of this, et directement je parle français, quoi. Like I'm speaking French all the time. I just hear a little bit of, do you have a, and I'm I'm French. So to me, it's not that there's no excuse, but I've just committed myself to the language every day. And I think that's why I've been able to keep up the fluency. And then obviously in creating my bakery, I named my business Fleur et Sel, which means flowers and salt. People are always curious, why the French? What's the tie to France? And I, with a smile on my face, I'm like, look, I did this program called School Year Abroad. It changed my life. But it's just this commitment because not only did the country and SYA and the program and my friends I made, you know, have such a profound impact on me, I want to share that with people every day. So yeah, it's a huge part of my life, forever.
Wow, it's apparent you've not embraced not just the language, but the culture, the essence, if you will, of France, and brought it back to LA. So no, that's great. Brought a big smile to our faces. Carol, another francophone lover. What? How about you?
You know, I think SYA obviously pushes languages and literature. And I think I found myself as a word nerd in Brittany, not just really, thank you, SYA, like learning French, but we had to memorize Racine. We had to read Stendhal, and we read Germinal by Zola in French. It boggles the mind, the work that we did, that you asked us to do and that we did was so hard. But then because it was high standards, we rose to that. So in my life, I've been an advice columnist. I've been Dear Carol at Girls Life magazine since its first issue in 1994. And it's a magazine for young girls. So I give them all sorts of advice, but I always get away with pushing SYA kind of at least once a year because it is such a formative thing. And then my first book, this is not a plug, this is just to identify in case anyone knows this book. It's called Girl Talk, and it came out in like 16 languages. But basically my very first book was me, I never really put this all together, but playing the role of big sister. And as though I suddenly realized there was a 15-year-old in my life who didn't know anything and I had to explain stuff to her. So the book was just a very big sisterly advice book. Again, I certainly, name SYA by name, but just trying to give the growing up advice that I think we needed, and thank you, we got. And then when I wanted to switch to fiction, and I had to kind of give myself some advice, like if you want to switch to fiction, you better get going on this. And then the first novel I wrote was called The Diary of Melanie Martin, and that was a series that Knopf put out. But the funny thing is that was about an American girl who goes abroad. She goes to Italy, she goes to Spain, she goes to Holland, and then a Spanish boy visits her. I always wanted to write Melanie Martin, ooh la la, and I don't know if I'll ever do it or not because my own kids who ended up going to SYA Spain got older, and suddenly it wasn't quite as top of mind. But anyway, SYA helped me be the word nerd that I proudly am.
Oh, that's great. I hope you do write that Ooh La La book. No, thank you. So question again for the three of you. Every journey, excuse me, has its obstacles. A few of us go through life without overcoming some challenge. I'm just interested in hearing what one challenge you faced in your career or service, and how did SYA and your experience in SYA prepare you to navigate it?
Yeah, okay. So when so many ways to answer that, because I think it shows up in your value system, and so it's not it's sometimes hard to isolate to one experience. I know for me, for instance, even when I think about my SY experience itself, of the 50, I was actually the only Black person in 1996. And I remember our trips around Tiananmen Square. And there's another shout out to Ted Bowles, who went to Western Reserve with me, who was also selected that year for SYA. Four of us came from the same high school. And he was super tall, like 6 foot something crazy. And so when the two of us were together, we got all the attention. And I think for important to understand, right, when you the way we were received, they had probably never seen someone as tall as Ted or as Black as I was, right? And the way they approached us, you could tell it was out of curiosity and not anything else. And then fast forward to the last time I was in Beijing, 2014, I went with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation delegation of young college African-American students who was working with we were working with the U.S.-China Exchange Foundation. And that was very empowering to go from being the only one in 96 to going with almost everyone that looked like me. And it was emotional going around Tiananmen Square with 25 other young college Black kids who everyone thought was famous, right? And you think about how folks like us sometimes get profiled in other spaces and people think negatively of what that means, right? But it was very, especially for the males in our group. I mean, they were overwhelmed that people were giving babies to hold and taking pictures. And it was just an interesting experience that a lot of people don't often get, but again, because of perspective. But of course, throughout my career, I think especially in a world where we're trying to understand each other better. And again, in my field of policy and social impact, it really is critical, especially when we talk about what representation means, right? I mean, that is what members of Congress are doing every day on both sides of the aisle. It's a very difficult work. We also know that we have a more globally interconnected world, and the same issues that affected us 50 years ago still affect us now. Poverty and inequality, racism, the lack of access to healthcare, so many issues, and people have, again, different perspectives on how to solve them, but you want to be able to have that dialogue with a basic human understanding that we are all created equal, that we see all of ourselves as human beings first. And again, I think it's so critical early on in your life to have these kinds of experiences, because it can become very easy, right, especially in a digital world, to think about people and communities in the abstract or only as a statistic. And you're shaping policy. You're talking about, let's solve the immigration problem. Let's increase let's decrease the pay gap and make sure women get paid the same as men, and just throw numbers around as if it doesn't really impact people's lives. And I think when you understand those things, it helps you really kind of ask yourself, what it means if you were in those shoes, right? And I think also in very simplistic ways. I remember in grad school at University of Michigan as a TA, we were all working in graduate school, and I often remember my Asian American friends who were brilliant studying American politics, just like me, getting a PhD in American politics, but some of them had accents. And I remember some of one of my friends in particular, who after a semester of being antagonized by his students, who had the audacity to tell him in the classroom, you shouldn't be teaching because you're not speaking English correctly. We don't understand what you're saying, right? And him kind of taking that, and finally to the point where, he was being bullied as a graduate student teacher. And I pulled him aside and I said, this is absolutely not right. And so I had to let him know that actually you have the power to discipline those students, but also you speak English just fine. And you are, there's nothing you have to change about yourself, but you also need to be empowered to know that you're the teacher and they're the students. And so I often think about how we can show up to support others that are in need. And as a child of immigrants, the last thing I'll say is, growing up as a proud Midwesterner from Ohio, I'm very thankful to my parents for their strong identity as Black people, as Ethiopian Americans, and making sure I learned about all the histories and of our people and the world. It is really critical to shaping identity so you can say who you are before someone else does. But it's really interesting the way we talk about folks, even with an accent, you know, in the American context, will often poo-poo that, or like that person is coming from somewhere else, when to me, if you have an accent, that is a signal that you have lived a life in a completely different place and you've come all the way to a new place. And to me, it is a sign of global understanding and willing to learn. Anyone who has an accent or speaks a different language, you are coming to the world with an experience that few people have. And it's a huge advantage, not a disadvantage. And so I've become even more prideful as time goes on that my name sounds different, and that I speak this language that maybe nobody has ever heard of, or that I've been to China. And guess what? I went in the 90s when a lot of people weren't, you know, going there, and now Mandarin is offered in so many schools across the United States. And so, like Lara said, you know, one of my best friends, Kiera Youngerman, who has 3 kids who are my niece and nephews, went to visit them in Boston just a couple months ago. I mean, these people are here. They've become our family, and I see us all as comrades in the sort of responsibility that we have, having gone through SYA, to make the world a better place, to share the story of why SYA is so critical, and then use the skills that we learn in all the obstacles we face moving forward. So sorry to capitalize on the time, but I'm very passionate about this question, and more passionate about what the program has offered to so many of us since 1964.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. Your passion shines through, Menna, and the impact SYA has had as part of your multicultural upbringing is apparent as well. So thank you for everything you've done and are doing. Lara, any thoughts you have on some
Sure.
obstacles that SYA has helped prepare you for, or that you
Oh,
know, you
absolutely.
overcome?
Absolutely. So one of the most profound things I remember, actually, I could have shared this as my SYA moment, was when I was in France. There was this national debate going on of qu'est-ce qu'être français? So like, what does it mean to be French, right? And when I was living in France, a lot of my French friends were from Algeria, right, or Morocco, or North Africa, or, you know, we all look different. And even amongst friends, amongst each other, we have this debate of what does it mean to be French, right? Does it mean to speak French? Does it mean to be born in France? Does it mean to have roots, you know, elsewhere? Does it mean to wear a hijab? Like, what does that mean? There's a whole national debate, right? And so as I had these conversations with my friends, it kind of just gave me this, you know, this mindset that it doesn't mean one thing to be French. You can look like so many things. You can have brown skin or dark skin or fair skin, or, you know, be the typical French girl with the mèche comme ça, and, you know, there's so much diversity within France, right? And I learned to love it and to celebrate it and to be proud of who I am and my identity. When I came back to the US, even as a professional and a student at USC and a baker now in my own shop, I encounter this question a lot of, what does it mean not to be American, but what does it mean to be a baker? What does it mean to be this? What does it mean to be a professional? What does it mean to, you know, look and, you know, I think some people want you to look and feel a certain type of way. Even within my bakery, with my branding and with my boutique, so many people come in and they're like, you can't be the owner, because they just have this idea of what the owner would look like, given the branding and the look and feel of my shop, whether it's high end or this or fancy or French. And then they meet me and they're like, I just don't understand. But because I've had these discussions and conversations, and I have a strong sense of self and a strong sense of pride of who I am, where I come from, why I speak French, you know, my mom is Japanese, my dad's African, and being proud of all of these components of me, I have no problem facing these questions of, well, you can't be the owner, or there's no way you can do this, or I've seen the branding and I've tried the cookies and I saw this on the, you know, wherever it is, it can't be you. But I stand here in front of my shop and I'm so proud to be me. Well, where's the French thing coming from? I'm proud to share why I speak French and why I'm so committed to the language. But it really started with living in France. And to that point, even as a student at USC, not because my French level was so beyond, but I tutored French to a lot of American students, you know, that I encountered in college. And I was so shocked that so many of them had this mindset of what Paris was like in France. They thought France was filled with, excuse my French or excuse my English, but all Caucasian white people with blonde hair, blue eyes, and that's what they thought France was. That same mindset of people thinking LA is glitz and glamour and Beverly Hills and Rodeo Drive. But no, LA is Inglewood, LA is Slauson, LA is Crenshaw, LA is West Hollywood. You know what I mean? But France is Arab, it's Asian, it's Black, it's Afrobeat, it's so many things beyond just Champs-Élysées, right? So just having this like global mindset and this strong sense of self to be able to share that with people on a daily basis, that really started in my formative years with SYA. So yeah.
Well, it's a powerful, powerful story. No, thank you so much, Laura. And Carol, over to you. We're going to switch to Tom in a minute because he's going to give us an update, but I would be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to, because I know you've had obstacles along the way and have persevered. Any final thoughts from you?
You know, I just think maybe it's the whole attitude of any teenager brave enough, with parents brave enough to let them go far away. You're just so much, you're so courageous. And in French, of course, they say bon courage, and they mean other things with it, but you just feel like, I was trying to think obstacles. It just feels like because I somehow, like everybody else with SYA, survived this faraway year in another language, like it's a superpower, you know? And then when I kind of did it and picked up Spanish and they're like trying to explain subjunctive, I'm like, huh, I got that. I got subjunctive because we already did that. So it just felt like doing SYA put me and everybody else, you know, on this fast track or this runway or this launch pad, or I don't know, so that later the obstacles didn't feel as much. And just one more small, I think when I was a mom, because I loved my French mom so much, sometimes if I was having just some no big deal thing with my kids or whatever, it was lucky that I had this other mom, this other experience where I could think, well, what would Genevieve have done? And it was very helpful because she took in 8 SYA kids. She was an amazing woman. And I'm just glad that I have her, you know, kind of in my heart as well. So SYA sets you up to go, I can do this.
Well, you're an amazing woman, as is Menna and Laura, 3 amazing women who we're so proud to call SYA alumna and honored today. So thank you again for all that you have done and your support for SYA. And please, everyone, just join me in another round of applause for our award winners. So,
Thanks.
thank you very much. And Tom, let me turn the microphone back over to you.
Sure, and let me echo those thanks. And I'm just totally inspired by you 3. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And in fact, it reminds me when I talk to SYA parents, I say, yes, your child's going over and going to have an amazing immersion in language and culture, but you're really giving your kid a gift to do 2 things. One is to kind of be the other and understand what that's all about. And that's so important at a critical age. And the other thing is that they're mature enough to have those moments to struggle on their own and then kind of get over that and feel really good and exhilarated. And that's an incredible gift that parents give their children at a very critical age. And man, I'm also very mindful that, you know, boy, this experience is needed now more than ever, given how tense this whole world is. And so if we have these ambassadors who have lived in a different country with people different than they are and can really get down and understand that, I think we're helping the next generation of the world. So I'm inspired yet again by you guys. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Wonderful. Just some thoughts about where SYA has been and where it's going, just very quickly, because I know we're almost at the hour. But just 3 things happened last year in a very special year. It was the 60th anniversary of SYA, and we had a big celebration over in Spain. First of all, starting in Barcelona, where it all began in '64, and then moved to Zaragoza, where we've been for about 25 years. And it was just one of those wonderful moments to, again, take a step back and say, this program is a powerful program, and we're only 60 years young, and it will keep going. So that was an amazing thing. We also went through an accreditation of SYA. It's our second one. I did one 10 years ago, and we go through the NEAS, New England Associations of Schools and Colleges. And so we are able to kind of reflect on where we've been and where we want to go. And the educators who came to visit each campus and also visit us in the home office we're totally blown away by the care and the safety and all we do with our students. And so coming out of that, we have some things we want to continue doing. I would say, having been an educator for many decades, I think this generation of students need more support than previous generations. And so we are right there with that. But at the same time, to my earlier point, we want to kind of push them a little bit and let them figure out some things, have a little bit of that time to figure that out and move on. So that Heart of SYA stays. The other thing that emphasized in this accreditation is how far we've come in as an experiential program, that we're getting kids more and more out of their seats in the classrooms in Zaragoza and Viterbo and Glen, and getting them into the country, the city and the country, and really kind of talking to people and having assignments where they have to interact. And just quickly, in Spain, we developed a history course where students learn about politics because they actually get out and do some stuff in the community and bring that back and reflect on it. So again, it's not just reading books. It is really kind of hands-on kinds of things, which are really pretty remarkable. So again, I see in the chat there's a question. When I started 10 years ago here, we had 4 campuses, and one being Menna's campus in Beijing. And during COVID time, obviously, that was shut down with the other campuses, but we did not bring China back. And it's because of the political unrest, and our program is so based on the host family connection. It would be really hard politically right now to have kids living with Chinese families. But that's not off the table for us. We've had a group of trustees look at that question, and we have some thoughts when we can look at this question again. Politically, we're not there at the moment, but I think it's not closed by any, in the long run. We want to kind of keep that thought alive. So with that, I just want to say 1 or 2 things. The students left last week, again, on airplanes, not on boats, and they're happily over there. What we do now is an orientation session to get them connected to their host families, a lot of safety conversations, which are important, a lot of getting to know the city, where transportation and places to go. So it's taken a few days of great in-depth orientation, and they're just starting now their formal studies in the classroom. And for all, remembered that there's an English and a math class that are taught in English by teachers coming over from America, whereas everything else is in the target language taught by local faculty members. And I'm very proud to say that our local faculty members, many of them have been there for decades, and they just love SYA. We love them, and the kids, the most important thing is the kids love them. So that's a little bit. And Taylor, I don't know whether you want to just mention anything from the board perspective of what kinds of things on your mind and their mind.
Oh, thanks, Tom. I'll just say that the board enjoys a very close relationship with Tom and his team, and it's such a pleasure working together to support SYA. Some of the issues that Tom has raised regarding student well-being and safety, security are things that are foremost in our minds, to make sure that our students and staff have a fruitful but also safe experience in their host countries. So risk management and mitigation is something the board regularly discusses when we meet about the experience. I'll also say that, and again, I think this was referenced earlier by Tom about some of the mental health challenges some students have these days. This is something that he and the staff have briefed us about, and you can appreciate how there are challenges working in foreign jurisdictions where they have different rules and regulations about consent and treatment and whatnot. And so we're very supportive of the team's efforts to make sure that the students and have all the resources they need to thrive in Spain, France, and Italy. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that this is a transition year coming up. We're so privileged to have Tom lead us for 10 years now, and I'm certainly looking forward to joining him on a few stops of his Moments tour. Sounds like a rock concert, but hope no one asks us to sing.
Do you have a T-shirt?
But also, you know, some of the things that the board has been doing, of course, has been working with Dr. Sally Mingarelli to prepare her to take the reins on July 1st. I sent out a note to the community a month or two ago. I certainly don't want to go through it all, but I just want to reiterate that it was a, you know, one, appreciation for Tom for being very transparent with the board and starting a conversation early about his retirement plans and giving us a long runway and a long transition, as it turns out, to new leadership. That really has served us well. It allowed us to engage a first-rate search firm, Carney Sandow, and engage in a structured search led by my SYA classmate, Han Morrissey, and former board chair, Holland Lynch, where really we had, I think, over 100 candidates that Carney Sandow whittled down to a dozen or so, and then the search committee reviewed the files and interviewed many of them and brought to Andover the two finalists. But we were united in the search committee, and the board were united in our support for Dr. Mingarelli as the next and fourth president of SYA. And as I said, I'll be continuing to work with the board to prepare her for the important duties she's going to be undertaking. But I will say she comes to the job with SYA experience, having worked at Lakeside School in Washington and the Punahou School in Hawaii, member schools, and is very much steeped in that immersive learning culture. So more to come, but we've got a great year ahead with Tom. And Tom, just to conclude, if you don't mind, I'll share an insight. Tom and I share goals with one another for the coming year, and in all caps, Tom put as one of his goals is keep working tirelessly until June 30th on behalf of SYA, and I have no doubt you will, and I look forward to working side by side with you, Tom.
Taylor, thank you. And it's been an absolute joy to do this job for 10 years. And I look forward to this year. And Taylor, thanks for coming on a number of the stops we'll have with alumni. And circling back to the very beginning of this conversation, I'm going to ask alumni to share their moments. So we'll have even a longer list of what those wonderful stories we've heard today. So thank you one and all for being here today. And more importantly, thank you for taking part in SYA. And I'm going to make one request, which is please spread the word. You know, it's not the typical thing that kids have in mind. So to have someone have a one-on-one conversation, talk about their experiences, and they think that this person would be a good candidate, it goes a long way. So if you could do that, we'd really appreciate it. And again, thank you one and all. Bye now.
Thank you.